You know, one of the biggest lessons I ever learned in life was the ability to reframe things. Reframing is like one of the secrets of happiness. Today on the tennis court, my partner was going for lots of balls at the net and she was missing a lot of them, and she was berating herself for being such a bad player and making such bad choices. And one of the other players said, "That's one interpretation, but what I see is that you're working on your aggressive net game." And the aggressive net game is a goal for a tennis player. You want to be good, you got to have an aggressive net game. And actually, when you think about it, that's what she was doing. She wasn't executing everything, but she was going for them, and she was working on something that, if she developed it, would be a great weapon. That's a reframe. Now, how do you think she felt about playing the rest of the day? Better? More optimistic? Or what do you think? A reframe can change everything. Think about the people who have been considered procrastinators. Maybe you, maybe me, right? What do you do when you procrastinate? Well, to the outside world, it looks like you do nothing. You're doodling, you're fidgeting, you're going down different rabbit holes on the computer and wasting time. But the fact is that procrastinators tend to have very vivid imaginations. They have a lot of imaginative powers. And some of them actually work better by having a ratio of what people might call procrastination to actual output, in which you spend a lot of hours doing that stuff that looks like you're doing nothing, and then you dial in the actual product because it takes you longer to plan and think, and some of that planning and thinking is spent maybe what you might call wasting time, but in that comes some germs of ideas and thoughts that you sort of save for later on, and then you go and you do your work, and it's quite good. And I reframed my own procrastination when I got that information, because I was hard on myself for procrastinating. Now, I incorporate that as part of my working style. I mean, if you looked at my work week, you'd see a lot of hours spent doing, what is he doing? He's doing nothing. He's walking around, he's doing errands, he's cleaning the house, he's filing books, he's reading. But what I have found is that all of that time not working is actually fervently helping my imagination to come up with things that I then do. And if you looked at the end of my work week, you'd see that the amount of product that I produce, the amount of work that I produce is fairly large, but the number of hours I actually sit and do that stuff versus the number of hours I do what others might call procrastination and what I now call creative thinking, there's a lot more hours doing that. And I mention this because COVID is the perfect opportunity to practice reframing. It's very easy to frame this as a disaster, 100%. Right? You don't have a job, there's no money coming in. There's a lot of bad stuff. I am not minimizing any of that. I also know that a lot of you are not experiencing things quite as badly as that, and that there are a lot of positives in there. And I suggest to you that what if you reframed some of the restrictions and the separations and the disorientations of COVID as opportunities? I've said this before, and I'm going to keep saying it. Because in every challenge, there is an opportunity. A famous politician used to say, never let a crisis go to waste. That's what he was talking about. So we're in a crisis. We're in a crisis in the sense that there's a lot of disorientation, a lot of reorientation, a lot of new normal, a lot of things that are falling by the wayside that we're not doing, like going out to restaurants, and a lot of new things that we are doing, like Zoom calls for just about everything. And those are all opportunities. And if you reframe what's going on as something with a positive outcome, as an opportunity to create something with a positive outcome, you may have a much better shot at creating exactly that than if you frame it as something negative. This is Jonny Bowden, and I really hope this helps in our dealing with this crisis together. Please keep your questions coming. We'll get back to some stuff that has to do with hardcore nutrition. But remember, one of the reasons I talk about these things is that everything I've learned in 30 years of working with people on weight loss and metabolic health tells me that all the issues that we have in our lives, we bring to our diet, to our weight loss programs, to our personal training programs, to our attempts to get in shape, all of those different glass ceilings, all of those stresses, all of those ideas we have about ourselves, all of those preconceived notions of our limitations, they all enter into weight loss. They all enter into any kind of health project or anything that you do. Many of you may have heard of the great author T. Harv Eker, the motivational speaker who wrote the book, The Millionaire Mind, huge bestseller. He used to say, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So if you show up lazy in this circumstance, you probably show up lazy in this circumstance. And the way you do this challenge may very well be a harbinger of the way you do life. What do you do with challenges, even when they seem insurmountable? If you reframe this as an opportunity, what you're left with is possibility. If you frame this as an unmitigated disaster, guess what you're left with? An unmitigated disaster. But if you frame this as an opportunity, what you're left with is possibility. This is Jonny Bowden. Check the like box, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.